Hello everybody, Icy Knight here. Night Patrol, Chapter 28, An Act of War. Written by Foxgear. Luna sat at the head of the table with maps spread all over the surface, as the others in the room analyzed the parchments of paper before them. Sixes, Emerald, Applejack, Crusader, and Topaz Slicer made up the task force for dealing with both mammoth and chimera attacks. The plan was simple. They would break into two groups and search the two areas where the attacks happened. Emerald, Topaz, and Crusader would hunt the chimera site, while Applejack and Sixes would head towards the towns near where Applejack encountered the mammoths, to find out any recent activity on the large mammal tribe. It would be accompanied by their own giant, P-Rex. Are you sure you want to take P-Rex out to the castle? Well, let's not beat around the bush. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and let us not forget that ponies outside the Night Patrol tend not to react too well to him. Luna nodded. I am certain, Applejack. I fear the time for us to use the full force of Night Patrol has come. We can no longer restrict ourselves. Clearly, some being out there intends us harm, so we must show them just what they are dealing with. After all, P-Rex is just the tip of a far greater mountain of power. I also plan to unleash the triplets and several other squads loose around the surrounding areas, not so far apart that they can't reach each other if needed, but will be patrolling a much higher area than usual. P-Rex, the triplets, the night hunters are all being deployed? Add in the regulars and the rangers, that's the entire Night Patrol. Luna was really serious about this. They didn't even have this many units deployed for the Battle of the Crystal Empire and Rainbow Factory. Applejack thought, worried about what could come of this, but she trusted Luna's judgment, even if she thought this was a little overboard. I'll leave you all to prepare. I must speak with the others. Fury and Rawhide will be dispatched with the larger units in the Moon Cutter and Solar Flare. Should you need them, you need only send up a single flare, and they shall come bearing a full battalion in each vessel. Any questions before I take my leave? Applejack raised her hoof. What is Overheat doing? I notice you haven't mentioned him once the entire meeting. I'm afraid Overheat's injuries are a bit more severe than originally thought, and he is laid up in medical with several fractures and magic exhaustion. I'm surprised he managed to stay standing for as long as he did. I see. And Kira? Shouldn't she be back from Nippon or wherever by now? Luna frowned. I'm afraid Kira is in a bit of a complicated situation and is unable to return at this time or anytime soon. Complicated situation? Very complicated, trust me. And if you excuse me, I must go. Please take care in your missions. Luna left the room, leaving them to their work. Silently they filed out of the room, going over what they would need and what would be the best way to travel. The Moon Cutter and Solar Flare would need a lot of logistics. It would take several hours to prep and gather the units to fill them, not to mention the supplies. They agreed they would just go ahead of the ships by hoof. We could just carry you there, Emerald. Both Cutter and I can fly. It would be no trouble, Topaz said as they gathered up their gear. A mission with his sister. You couldn't help but feel Luna did this intentionally, as she's known to do. A nice gesture nonetheless. I'm perfectly fine by walking or flying myself on my gems. I do not need to be carried, Emerald said, her muzzle turned upwards. She was a proud mare. She didn't need help, but, however, as this is a mission, I wish to get it done as quickly and effectively as possible. So I will allow you two to carry me on our destination. But so help me if one word of this gets out. Rest assured, our lips are sealed, Topaz replied quickly. Right, Crusader? The white Renan nodded silently, looking pale. Well, paler than usual. Did something happen that he didn't know about? Topaz looked curiously between Emerald and Crusader, wondering why they seemed so tense around each other. Whatever the case, Topaz was sure it wouldn't interfere with the mission. Meanwhile, Applejack and Sixes collected their third team member. The two stood outside the courtyard facing the armory. Inside, P-Rex was being commissioned his armor, a hefty project that has taken a lot of bits and steel. Some had objected to spending the resources on the large pony, but Luna simply countered with, he's a member of Night Patrol and all members are given armor, no exceptions. Thus the fittings and material work began. Only until recently has it been completed. Now the task of adorning the armor to P-Rex was a different challenge, but one conquered nonetheless. Is he done yet? Applejack hollered into the armory. A few disgruntled mutters of, he won't stop moving, and why is he so ticklish? Were her replies. Their replies. Really, it was quite comical. However, as the big doors rolled open to allow P-Rex out, he was anything but funny. He was scary. He looked like a giant metal pony. Horned and spiked stuck out from the helmet and shoulders, as well as his back leg pads. There was hardly a piece of exposed flesh to be seen. No wonder it took so long to make. However, that image of metal demon god was tarnished as soon as P-Rex began bouncing around energetically like a puppy that its masters had just returned home. His tongue was even flopping around, spilling slobber everywhere. Mission time, I'm going on a mission, yay, yay, yay! Also, P-Rex could talk now, though he had the intellect of a foal. Really, it was taking a lot of willpower not to ask Luna to reconsider sending him. Honestly, Applejack didn't want to see such an innocent and fun-loving pony doing what she did. Killing. Ready to go, P-Rex? The big pony nodded, jumping up and down in excitement. Applejack smiled nervously and waved at Allure, who just had her material carts knocked over. Sorry, Allure. Let's get out of here before we're chased out of here. Sixes chuckled, and she smacked him in the burrow with her hoof. He only laughed harder as he carried her onto P-Rex's back. It was strange to be riding on the back of another pony, almost unnatural even. Nonetheless, P-Rex was fast, faster than one would think. "Giddy up, partner!" Applejack hollered, stomping her hoof on the big pony's back to let him know he could take off. He did, but not before rearing up. She cringed as his giant hooves hit the ground, shaking the courtyard, tipping carts and crates and ponies as they thundered out of the castle. She was definitely going to owe some favors when she got back. From her balcony, Luna watched the two groups move out. Beside her, a transparent image of Celestia stood next to her, her sister's newest spell, one that would allow them to talk from great distances and see each other. At least her sister still put her great mind to use. "How are things in Cantorlot? I know I left quite a bit on your plate to deal with, but there was no time to idle about. You see it too, don't you, sister? You know what is coming." Celestia nodded solemnly. "Indeed I do, sister. As we have seen in the past, war is brewing. And as always, I must turn to you to be the bad pony. I prefer the effective pony, but I suppose modern scholars view my conquest differently than they did in the past. I assume you want to talk to our enemies first and have them see reason?" "No," Celestia said, much to Luna's surprise. "In recent matters, you have proven correct in your readings of the situation. Hence, I will put my trust in you. Do what you feel is right. You have my full support, Luna, and I shall deal with the nobles here." Luna couldn't help but smile. Celestia putting her trust in her wholeheartedly? When was the last time that happened? Not in the last decade she knew of. "Thank you, sister. No, your trust is not misplaced." "I know it isn't." Celestia looked away. The sound of the door opening, the sound of the door being knocked on coming through the connection. "Ah, I see the nobles are here. Please excuse me." The connection closed, and Celestia's image faded. Taking a settling breath, Luna left her balcony and headed for the medic bay to check on Overheat. His strength would be needed as soon as possible. She was hoping his injuries weren't as serious as the doctors first thought. Rounding the corner and making her past a herd of ponies scrambling off to somewhere, she found herself at the medical wing. Entering, Luna quickly trotted to Overheat's bed to find it empty. "Nurse Blue Blood!" "Yes, Your Highness." A white pony with a blue cross mark answered promptly. "Where is Overheat?" "Overheat, ma'am?" Blueheart browsed her list. "Ah, Commander Overheat. He checked out a few hours ago." Luna frowned. If that was the case, why didn't he report to her? "Keep an eye out for him. If you find him, have him report to me." The nurse nodded and continued with her work, leaving Luna to wonder where the fire pony has disappeared to. The sun shone in the sky, giving way to the heat of the afternoon. Emerald and her team made the good time making it to the ruined border town. Even if she was a bit embarrassed about having to be carried by Topaz and Crusader. They arrived several hours ahead of schedule. It would be some time for their backup to get organized and be in position. "Tread carefully. We'll be on our own for a while," said Emerald, looking around the destroyed town. The cleanup crew had done a good job. Every pony was accounted for. No bodies were left out to rot, and instead were properly buried. The new wooden grave marks were the only new things in the town. A sad reality. The town would probably never be settled again. You say that, but what are we looking for? Topaz asked, looking around the ruined town. Everything here is dead. We all know the dead can't talk. Not that the victims of this attack would probably say anything useful anyways. They probably were too busy fearing for their lives to notice important details, just which way the creature came from or if there were any sightings of it before hoof, right? Crusader spoke up. They did notice something was amiss. That's why my squad was dispatched in the first place. They reported something was eating the nearby woodland creatures, leaving nothing but gore behind. Won't the local patrollers have a record of the attacks? Maybe we'll find a clue if we search the outpost. Emerald and Topaz shared a look. That did make sense. A lot of sense, in fact. Smart thinking, kid. Come on, let's get going. The nearest outpost is only 50 miles from here, and we're walking the whole way. Yes, ma'am, Topaz chuckled, knowing Emerald didn't like being carried. She put up a fuss the entire way here. Still walking would prove beneficial, as it would let them spot clues that the trees would have hidden from the air. The three trotted along at a steady pace through the forest. The road was clear, with no traffic other than them. Otherwise, there were no forest critters either. No rabbits, birds, nothing. It was eerie. I don't like this, Emerald said. It's way too quiet. You two see anything? Nope. No, ma'am. Emerald frowned. How far are we from the outpost? We should be close by now. Judging from the map, I say we're here. Topaz pointed ahead to a worn-down building surrounded by timber walls. The gate ripped wide open. Well, that's not good. I thought the monster didn't come out this far. It didn't, Crusader answered, taking point. Small flickers of fire ignited between his horns as he craned his neck around the corner of the ruined gate. Clear! The three entered, their eyes shifting all over the place. The signs of battle were everywhere. Deep claw marks marked the walls, and large splats of dry blood were everywhere. Cautiously, they made their way to the main bunkhouse, where the daily reports would be kept. Once inside, they buried the door. Quickly, Emerald trotted to the desk in the corner of the room, the officer's desk, and riffled through the drawers, finding their prize, the captain's notebook. Found it! Laying the book on the table for all to see, she turned to several days before the attack on the village. Spotted signs of a large animal nearby. Sent out 2 rangers to locate and confirm creature. Report confirmed creature. 1 ranger injured. Called for backup from castle. Commander Crusader said to be dispatched. Emerald stopped reading. Topaz rubbed his chin as he examined the map of the creature's path. It seemed to like the eastern region, right over the Griffin's side of the border. He found that interesting. We should head east. Emerald gave him a look. East? Why east? That's Griffin territory. We can't go beyond the border. Why waste time walking 20 miles there? 30, Topaz corrected. 30 miles. Thanks to the new trade agreement, we can cross 10 miles into Griffin territory. meaning we can enter the villages along the line and ask some questions. Emerald nodded. That's great. Maybe we can get to the bottom of this. As Emerald and Topaz trotted for the door, Crusader held his ground. He looked nervously towards the wall of the room as the two senior hunters turned back to him with curious looks. Something wrong, kid? Emerald Cutter asked. He wasn't sure. After the last mission, Crusader was questioning his position as a commander. But he had a feeling in his gut that something wasn't right. That they shouldn't leave just yet. Yes, I think we need to stay here for the night, he said uncertainly, waiting for their harsh dispute. Strangely, they didn't mock or scold him, rather shut the door and looked curiously at him. Emerald looked him straight in the eyes. Okay, why? Crusader gulped. They were probably going to think he was crazy, but here it goes. I have a feeling that we need to stay here, at least a while longer. Maybe at least for the night. We've been traveling all day anyways, and need to rest, and this is the only shelter around for miles. I know you probably think I'm just tired, and I'm making excuses, but I'm not. I really think we need to stay here. Well, he does have a fair point, Topaz said, looking out the window, his vision focusing on the claw marks on the wall. We have been moving all day, and this cabin is a better shelter than outside in the tents, and much more sturdy. Chances of us being attacked by other monsters is very high, almost 75% if you want to be accurate. We would be safer here. Emerald looked restlessly between the two, her gaze landing on Crusader. Luna has spoken of Celestia having similar feelings, premonitions, etc., and Crusader was half Celestia genetically speaking. Maybe he was having some foresight moment, or sixth sense. Maybe he was just being overly cautious after how his last mission ended. Either way, the point remained. It was getting dark, and they have traveled a lot. Fine, we'll camp here tonight, but I want this place reinforced. Cover the windows and seal the doors. Despite being safe and sound inside, the three night patrollers still took turns doing night guard duty. Naturally, Crusader was given second watch, the worst one. It wasn't like the first watch, where you just stayed up a little later, or a third watch, where you just got up earlier. No. Second, what you get woken up in the middle of the darn night, and then have to somehow fall back to sleep. Even if you do, it's not a very restful one. Already his eyes were dropping from being awoken, and he'd only been awake for an hour. He supposed it was only fair that he take the second watch, as he was the one to suggest they stay and put them behind schedule. But he didn't have any regrets. He wasn't cautious enough when he was leading his unit here last time. He was brash and too eager to prove himself. Maybe if he had waited and thought things out, they would still be alive. He felt his heart ache as he thought of his lost unit. He was ashamed that he didn't even remember some of their names. They were fresh recruits, meaning just coming out of training. But he was too distracted trying to prove himself to his mother and father to sit down and actually talk and get to know them. Many would think he wasn't bothered by his father's lack of any interest in him. He kept up a good face about it. After all, the crisis and gossipers in support of his father, Sixes, did have a point. Sixes had not fathered him, nor had Celestia mothered him. He was created, forcibly and without consent or warning. That didn't mean he still didn't want a mother's touch or know a father's pride, because despite his appearances, he was still the same white foal he had been, yet he was not at the same time. Part of him did wonder, though, if it had been Luna's feather instead of Celestia's, would things be different? Princess Luna seemed to have trouble speaking to him too. Despite being the one that named him, it was only after the truth of his gene makeup became known did the Princess of the Night's attitude towards him cool. Not that she wasn't friendly or cold, it was just awkward. The sound of something rustling outside pulled Crusader from his thoughts. He stood and moved around, following the sound of something scraping the walls outside. The sound was eerie, like something out of a horror story. Carefully he followed the noise around the room. Along the way, he nudged Emerald and Topaz awake. The two awoke silently with no noise, and Worsley followed his lead. He tapped his ear, asking if they heard the noise too. They mimicked his action, meaning they heard and understood. "What do you think it is?" he whispered, as they gathered in the middle of the room. Outside, the noise grew louder. The wood logs of the outpost were beginning to creak and moan. One of the logs in the wall snapped, sending splinters everywhere. Whatever was outside was strong. "Some sort of monster," Topaz replied dryly. "It sounds like it's getting frustrated. It must know where we are, but it can't find us. I say there's a 20 to 40% chance that it's blind, or has very poor vision and thus makes up for the lack of sight with enhanced hearing and smell, making it very dangerous if we are forced in the forest. There it will have the natural advantage." "Who said anything about running and hiding? We are hunters. Let's hunt the darn thing." "Emerald, may I remind you we are not Overheat or Kira? We do not share their particular skill in hunting like you. A sound strategy is the key to victory." Emerald rolled her eyes. "Yes, I agree. But if I remember, you got the full body plasma attack, and the kid is the most magical Renin alive, and I can basically cut through anything. I fail to see why we need to retain ourselves against this thing." The two argued back and forth on the matter till Crusader shushed them. "The noise! It stopped!" That was indeed the case. The scraping had stopped, making all three of them wary as they stood in a circle in the middle of the room, eyes in every direction, prepared for anything that might happen. From outside, the sound of wood being splintered echoed, followed by a loud roar and the sound of something running. The three were so stunned by the volume of the noise, none of them moved for several seconds, till Emerald shook herself free of the roar's spell and cut her way through the wall, leaving the two stallions to catch up. Topaz and Crusader were hot on her trail. They brushed by and destroyed fence and followed the large claw like imprints into the forest. The prints were heading towards the boulder Topaz noticed as they ran along. Up ahead, Emerald was a good half-mile ahead of them. Only the shine of her crystal coat in the moonlight allowed them to see her in the dark. "Fly up!" Topaz ordered, spreading his wings. He flew up above the canopy with Crusader on his tail. From up above, they could see the green shine of Emerald's coat through the trees, and ahead of Emerald was their quarry. "The hey is that thing?" The creature was reptilian, or something of that family. Topaz concluded by the way it crawled across the ground at blistering speeds. It slithered through the trees like the grace of a snake and the speed of a stampeding buffalo. "Do you see that?" Crusader pointed ahead to a bright glow across the tree line. There was smoke, and smoke usually meant fire. "Yeah," Topaz said, narrowing his eyes. "And I don't like it. Blast that thing before it gets any further into Griffin territory." Crusader nodded. Charging up his horn, he took aim, was about to fire when the creature just suddenly vanished. Emerald skidded to a halt below, and they circled overhead and came in for a landing. "What did you two do?" she asked. They could only shrug. They had no idea what was going on. "Nothing, it just vanished," Emerald scoffed. "Monsters of that size don't just vanish. It's got to be around here somewhere. Maybe it vanished or camo ability? If that is the case, why didn't it use it sooner?" Topaz countered. "Surely if it thought we were a threat, it would have disappeared sooner. Another thing, Crusader and I spotted smoke ahead where the Griffin villages is supposed to be located. We should head there and see what's going on." She nodded in agreement. "We're heading there anyways. Come on, let's go." The village, a small Italian, located just 20-some miles off the border. It was a fairly large village, despite its name. It functions as a trade town and barracks for the Griffin Kingdom. The village itself was built on a small bluff, making entry by ground very difficult, as any visitor or attackers would have to climb the steep, narrow path up to the village. The path itself was only wide enough for one pony to walk without falling. This made the town very easily defendable against any group assault by invaders, a trait that helped in the last war with Equestria. The village was more an unofficial fortress in reality, which is why when Crusader, Topaz, and Emerald landed in the square, finding it ablaze and its residents and guards dead, they were taken back. "What the hey happened here? Who could have done this?" Topaz grabbed Emerald by the shoulder, trying to drag her away from the carnage. Harshly, he whispered, "It doesn't matter. We need to get out of here now." The sound of something being knocked over caught their attention, and the three turned towards the source of the noise, ready to deal with whatever was to come. They expected any number of creatures to come running at them, but they did not expect a survivor. "Help me!" A brown griffin screamed in terror as he scraped down the line. "She's a monster!" A blast of dark blue magic shot from around the corner, destroying the building and everything between it, with the blast hitting the fleeing griffin square in the chest. He exploded into a pile of guts and gore. Nothing but red stains remained of him. From the wreckage, a tall black form walked through the flames. The creature was equine, with wings and a horn and eternal hair. There was no doubt it was an alicorn, and it looked just like Luna if she were as tall as Celestia. My, how wonderful to see, my dear children of the night. The pony spoke with a sultry tone. My poor little dears, do not fear your queen. I'm simply setting the stage is all. Her smile widened as a patrol of griffins appeared overhead, and right before their eyes, the black alicorn changed shape and looked like an exact copy of Luna. We are Princess Luna of Equestria. We hereby declare war on King Silverus and all of Gryffindom. Go and tell your king, the pony declared, mimicking Luna's voice perfectly. The three night hunters could only stare in shock at what just happened. Do you know? Emerald stuttered, trying to wrap her mind around what was going on. Do you know what you just did? The pony smiled at her. Yes, I do. My name is Nightmare Moon, by the way. I look forward to the time when you all will be serving me. Till then, tell little Luna to have fun. I'll be seeing her soon. Nightmare Moon crackled as she vanished in a cloud of smoke, leaving the three women confused and shaken in the burning village. War has begun. The stage is set. Now it's up to Luna and the Night Patrollers to stop this madness. I hope you all enjoyed this chapter. There's more to come. Have a good night, everyone.